Here is a video on the internal air valve for the Blizzard and or Storm. How to clean and maintain if a leak should arise. More commonly than not, with the internal air, you have to pay attention to the O-ring that's in this hole here, which the copper pipe goes into. It's always a great idea to grease this area so it seals correctly. You always want to make sure and inspect this O-ring for any nicks or damages. If you have a leak from that area, you'll definitely be able to tell because it should come out of the upper receiver in between the space there. With the internal air, where you get a leak through the barrel or the mag well, that's definitely coming from here, and that's more commonly caused due to the seal here. So with the internal air valve, you have what it looks like this. So this is your inside piece. Connected to that is your pin that goes like this, and that actually goes through the valve and comes out this direction. Every single time that you press the trigger, what's happening is this spring that is connected to this pin here, every single time the trigger is pressed, it opens and closes this valve via the spring. So every time you press the trigger, it goes boom, 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 boom. This allows the projectile to be fired, and of course the air behind the projectile to fire it. So more commonly than not, when you see a leak, you always want to look inside of your valve. You always want to inspect this area for dirt or anything like that, over oiling, etc. Clean that out, then re-oil it. What you'll see here is I have the seal. This plastic part is connected to this piece here, which actually seals to the chamber. So more commonly than not, if you inspect this plastic piece here on both sides and you see any nicks, scratches, or anything, that's usually a bad seal. So what you'll do is, if you are having a leak, you'll clean a leak from the barrel or the magazine well. You always want to clean that very, very well. And then you'll flip the part over that you just cleaned, and this just gets press fitted back in there. It's not screwed in, just press fits. You'll take your pin, you'll screw that back together there. You'll screw it all the way down until it is flush, just like that. Now, to reinsert everything, you have a piece here that goes first, which is this. This part actually, once again, seals the chamber. So you'll want to clean this O-ring, clean this brass part right here. You put the O-ring back on. You can see it's already oiled and good to go. Take your chamber and you will insert the O-ring facing down. And the way I like to do this, because sometimes it'll, it can flip in there. You don't want that to happen. So I like to put it in halfway, and then what I'll do is I'll take my pin and I will put that in there just like that. Now you can see that the pin comes up. This part is spring loaded there, and I will take my C-clamp, which is at the top, that holds this thing in. Obviously you'll need a special tool for this, so you'll need to get a pair of the C-clamp wrench, and you will close it. You gotta be careful because it does it is a little bit difficult to get on there. Press it down. There you go. It is spring loaded. It's supposed to have a lot of tension there. You can see the spring located in there, and the O-ring. Put it all back together. Put a couple drops of oil in the ASA to lubricate this internal valve system, and a couple drops here. The O-ring that's on this outside, you always want to make sure that when you replace the O-ring on this, that you're using the correct one. It needs to be it's not a rubber black one. It is a yellow polyurethane. It's a plastic type material O-ring. And what this does, this actually seals to the power tube. So you want to make sure that you're using that O-ring. Using a black O-ring may not seal that power tube, which will give you loss in FPS and also air efficiency issues. So that's the internal air valve. For those of you who have the different air valves with the tombstone, it's the same idea, but your parts in here are a little bit different. So you still have the screw here that is a little bit difficult to get off, but you can use a wrench and you can unscrew it. But there's your seal. It's the same process. You'll take that off. Be very careful when you take it off that you don't scratch it or nick it. Clean it, flip it over, and screw this back on. You can see here the same type of valve, just has a power tube, or I'm sorry, the Tombstone version. You'll still has that same O-ring and the brass fitting there. What I'll do is I'll put that in very nice and neat. And then what I'll do, I'll install it the same way. So I'll take my thing here, press that down, and you'll see it come out the end there. Then instead of the C-clamp holding that in, what they give you is a washer which goes into the groove, and then an O-ring. This O-ring is also very important. Because of its thickness and its material, this seals the chamber closed, and this will seal against the tombstone. So what I'll do is, in order for this to stay, you have to set it into a groove. And this is kind of a tricky part because that O-ring sometimes is a little bit difficult to get into its track. But what I like to do is I'll oil it up a little bit or even grease it, and there you go. Now it sits flush into a groove, and your tombstone will go right over that and seal to the chamber. So that's the valve breakdown video for each one of the valves that we have right now at this time, the Tombstone version and then your internal air version of our systems. All right, if you have any questions, you can hop in the chat or visit us at mcsus.com.